Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 39 of Rise Up the Podcast. After a little hiatus, I am back. Greg, I listened to your episode today at work, actually, with Dan Alexander. You guys did a fantastic job. Got me through my work day today, so I appreciate that. Man, what an
shout out to Newbie. Thanks, Newbie.
Big shout out for stepping in, filling in. That was awesome. I'm sure the listeners loved it as well. We're definitely going to try to get him more involved as we continue throughout the PLL season. But, man, what a week of lacrosse we just had. Archers punched their ticket 2 weeks ago. Cannons punched their ticket this week. The Whip Snakes are pushing with the return of Brad Smith. The Redwoods are falling a little bit, and we have a lot to catch up on. But before we get into the world of the PLL, you know I like to check in with my man Greg, see how your week's been. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I'm going to be heading back out to on the road tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. flight to Colorado to help Team 91 Northside. My boy Ethan out there is doing some big things. So that'll be fun for a couple days and flying back. But, yeah, man, the summer grind's coming to an end, and I can't believe that we're knocking on September's door. How about you?
That must feel nice, but with the summer grind and the fall grind's right around the corner.
Yes.
It's been good.
With that comes football.
Oh, yeah. But it's been good. I was traveling. I've been traveling every weekend in the summer. It feels like it's good to get out of the city. But I was up in Cape Cod this past weekend for my dad's 60th birthday. Had a fun celebration. Played some golf. Saw a lot of my cousins. We had a really good time. So that's always good.
That's awesome. Yeah, and get a chance to watch a little PLL action.
Got a chance to watch some PLL action, which is what we'll get into right now. I mean, let's start off with the first game, Archers Atlas. And before we even get into the game, it must have been nice for you seeing a good old-fashioned face-off battle because we haven't seen one of those in a while.
You know what? I think I'm on the side of let's play an entire season with these rules. So we have an entire season of data. I mean, overwhelmingly, it seems like people hate this 32-second shot clock thing. But let's look at, just quick, before we talk game by game, the overview of that situation. So the first game of Saturday and Sunday featured two face-off guys for each team. And in the other two games, one was one face-off guy versus a prevent, and the other was just Water Dogs, Cannons, is like playing hot potato. Nobody wanted to touch the first ground ball.
It was
so
1970s
weird.
lacrosse.
Oh, it was weird. So if you're a statistics person and you want to look at this and say, okay, Paul was actually interviewed during one of the games. Essentially, he said, look, this was to nerf how important a face-off guy can take over a game. Okay, so we got the truth out there. That's fine. But if your thought process was, hey, maybe this, because we were all watching that last game of the weekend going, this could be I took the over because I was like, maybe the ball's just going to slap out each time and there's going to be an immediate transition goal. It was the exact opposite. So the first game on Saturday and Sunday combined, okay, 53 goals. The second games combined without two face-off guys starting, 37 combined goals. So almost a 20-goal difference. Turnovers were similar. There was an 8 turnover difference. And the goal differential, okay? So here's the thing. Like if you have there's going to be games where there's low scoring and high scoring. That's fine. But if your goal is to see high competitive last-second lacrosse, historically, the PLL has always been a 1.5 spread league because the first few years especially, it felt like every week was a one-goal game. It's starting to look like, if you see the pattern here, the two games that happened this weekend where their face-off guys were starting for both teams, 2 games combined, there was a 3-goal differential. In the other 2 games, 11-goal differential. They were over at halftime. So you could argue that face-off guys starting for each team creates more offense and a better overall product in game than if you don't. And that's just by the statistics we're seeing. We have a 2.5 spread for the first time, and I literally can't remember this weekend coming up. And it's interesting. What do you take away from those numbers?
I think you hit the nail on the head. And You're right. Let's see how the season plays out. And I did catch that interview with Paul on the sideline where he was talking about it and talking about adjustment. But do you think that the PLL, you know, will say hand up, we got this one wrong, we're going to revert? Or do you think they have too much pride in doing that?
I don't think it's a pride thing. I think there's a very much Paul is a. You could. I don't care. Like, look, I deal with the same. I deal with similar things Paul Rabel deals with. People don't know me very well. They know me on Twitter. They know me on whatever, and they viscerally hate me, or they deal with me, or they really like me. It doesn't change who I am or how I sleep at night, and I know it doesn't for Paul. Paul is. You could say a lot of things about Paul. Paul and Mike are not stupid. They're very smart businessmen. So when you have a product on the field that has been overwhelmingly positive reviews for the first few seasons, and this is the first thing that people universally dislike, and they're loud about it, and then on top of it, you're seeing the product itself doesn't look clean. Like you know what I haven't had this whole summer dealing with college coaches every day? I haven't had a single coach say, man, you know what I love? That new 32-second rule. Every coach goes out of his way to tell me how much they hate it. And they think it just creates sloppy play. Now, I think, based on my conversations with Paul, at the end of the season, they'll look at the data and they'll say, here, look, we thought this was going to happen, but it didn't. We got, a bunch of guys lost their careers. Statistically, the stats were down. There were more turnovers. It was sloppy. Let's just put it back. Now, will they go all the way back to 52? I don't know. What I think would make everybody happy, based on the numbers we're seeing, is you look at it and you go, let's just go 40 seconds for the reset and for the faceoff. 40 seconds flat. That gives you another 8 seconds. Faceoff guys still matter. Faceoff guys can still get off the field in offense. Here's my point. We saw what everybody on Twitter, because lacrosse Twitter is filled with geniuses. We saw what everyone's been saying was not true. All the guys who don't like put Zach Courier out there. He's a two-way me. Back in my day when we played uphill both ways without shoes, we were all playing 90 minutes without taking a breath. Zach Courier, in my opinion, without any argument, is the greatest two-way midfielder in the world right now. And he won 21 out of 22 faceoffs, and the Water Dogs could not score off the initial faceoff. If he can't figure it out, then nobody can. Don't worry about it. And I think the argument is he was also slowed up because now he's taking the faceoff every time. So he's taking 22 faceoffs. His total amount of time on the field can't be the same. He can't sprint on offense, sprint on defense like he always can because he's fighting for a ground ball. So it brings back the whole idea of team sports. You need a specialized guy who could do that. Maybe a guy who could get the ball to your offense and get off the field. So, yeah, I think the proof is coming through very clearly right now.
Yes, and I think it was the Water Dogs Cannons games on the broadcast. I think Caraway went out with an injury, and someone mentioned on the broadcast, I forget who, was saying, it's good that the Water Dogs, didn't just face off.
Quinn has said that every week, yeah.
Because then they have an extra, midfielder. But I wonder if this also may lead, you jogged my mind when you said, people losing their jobs. I wonder if this may result in an extra roster spot come game days next year, which I think would be a positive for the league.
Yeah, I think, people have to remember that's 8 more guys getting paid that day, that weekend. But I remember we used to have, I think there's, 20 guys are dressed right now?
Right now it's 19. I think MLL was 21.
The MLL, I could have swore the MLL was the same number, but maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I'm wrong too.
Yeah, I don't think it was more than 19. But anyway, adding one extra roster spot would make a lot of sense based on what we're seeing. Look, I was fully prepared to come on this show this week and be like, yo, I got to tell you, that game was 19-18. The ball was flying all over the place. That was sick. Nope. Absolutely wasn't the case. So, yeah. And also, like I've said before, you've got the Paul Canabine Face-Off Athlete of the Year award to, in my opinion, the GOAT. He's not going to be on any face-off leaderboards after this year. This season, Zach Curry, you go 21 for 22 in 2005, you're a god, right?
Correct.
Zach Currier went 21 for 22, and he's a two-way midfielder, and he was barely even clamping. He was just smacking the ball, turning around, scooping, because
He's
the
better at
long
ground balls.
ball didn't want anything to do with
Yeah.
it. So yeah, it's really kind of shredded things up. I think, like I said, Paul and Mike will make a proper business decision after the end of this season, whether it goes to 40 seconds or 52. We'll see.
I think you're right, and I think you're looking at it the right way too. And I'm interested to see that at the end of the year. But while we're still in this season, let's break down that Atlas Archers game, best game of the weekend.
Yeah.
Awesome comeback by the Archers. Atlas showed some mustard. They, like we said, this team's too good to be where they are at right now, and they're gonna fight come playoff time. But I mean, Archers, that comeback, that 2 bomb by Jared Connors, and then obviously Schreiber icing the game. Who else is going to do it, right? What's so interesting to me is they're doing it. They've kept more at attack and Immense running out of the box, and it's just kind of next man up mentality. More filled in for Immense, and now that's kind of his spot. And Immense, back to just stirring the drink and being less of the guy that we all know he is and more of just a cog in the system. But if something's good's going, they're not going to go away from it, right?
No, and here's the other thing too: is Grant it's not an argument. He's one of the most dynamic lacrosse players in the world.
Correct.
But he also has to prove that he can be healthy for multiple games in a row. And do you take the chance of saying, okay, this attack was working, but let's put him back in there, get more now out of rhythm where he's been doing great, and then all of a sudden, maybe Grant's hammy goes again. So I think this is it's a good, smart play because you're going to keep your attack intact, let them keep doing their thing. Plus, dude, nobody on earth wants to deal with Grant coming out of the box. Dude, especially when you have that attack plus Schreiber. Who's going to get the short? That is scary shit. And in the PLL, it works a little bit better than it did in the MLL because the field is shorter, so you can have more attackmen like that coming out of the box playing mid because they can get to the box fast to transfer. Now, I think if Grant proves that he can stay healthy, he's doing his thing. Also, just a side note, massive respect to him. We're talking about a guy who is one of the best players in the world, and he's like, okay, fine. I'm coming out of the box now. I'm going to do my thing. And he's happy because he's an ultimate team guy. So, yeah, that offense is clicking. It was great. And I thought the Atlas, that was the best game they've played, I think, this year. They played awesome.
They had to fight, and it was good seeing that right fight. I think teams that coast into playoffs that aren't as tested, that's where the teams run into trouble. And this was just a great comeback, winning in different ways. But while we're on the Atlas, I want to bring up our midseason trade.
Oh, yeah.
Miles Jones was traded for Romar Dennis. Romar Dennis didn't dress this week for the Atlas. Both players have been struggling, I'd say, this year. They're not playing up to their full potential from what we've seen. We know Romar in the Sixes was just dominant and won the MVP of the Sixes tournament. And Miles Jones, he's been a mainstay in pro lacrosse for the last, 7 years. So change of scenery may be good for them, but what do you think of this trade?
I'm so fascinated by this trade because I'm trying to figure out, is this a locker room trade or a field trade? If you're looking at it from a field trade perspective, maybe, okay, look, it seems like this Redwoods team, the attack is crushing statistically, and that just happens to be the way that this offense is designed right now. I like that. I think the Redwoods are a better team when they're playing offense and they're initiating from behind the cage. However, I really thought there was going to be more step-down chances for Miles when RP gets to that 5-5. But it doesn't really seem like that. It looks like the attackmen really have a head-down mentality, and they're sticking it, and they're getting to their spots and scoring. The question then becomes, can Romar, are you going to have Romar initiate from up top because he's a speed guy? That's the question. I'm confused on the field. And then when you look at the locker room, it's like, okay, maybe once in a while, I've been on teams where in the pros, you just got to stir the pot a little bit and change the dynamic up in the locker room. And maybe that could be the case as well.
It's weird to me, though, because both guys didn't dress last week. And
Yeah.
are they going to dress now that they're switching teams? They're both similar when you say they're stretch shooters. I think Miles might be sometimes a little bit more pass first. He likes to see the field, where Romar is a little bit more speed, dodge, get to a spot, try to hit a
Yeah.
two, whether it's a jump shot or whether
Yeah, I'm
it's
not
time
worried
and
about
movement.
Romar threading the D, but I am
Yeah,
worried that Romar is going to fade away 17 yards out, crush the corner.
both their shooting percentages haven't been great this year.
Yeah.
We talk about the Redwoods. They already have a guy like Sergio Perkovic who is playing two ways. I think on the roster when they list him as a short stick D midi, which credit to him for embracing that role. But I don't think he's canned one yet this year either. So
Yeah.
it's weird. It doesn't seem like there's a spot in either of the lineups for them. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because then you also have to think about contracts. Where do they come into play from a salary cap standpoint? You know, I know Romar's probably frustrated after the Sixes tournament, but when you put a 12-yard two-pointer, Romar is going to be LeBron James. So, it is interesting. I think that it's just one of those things where they're like, look, if this guy's not playing at all anyway, let's trade him. Let's trade up. Let's get two. Look, both are really good dudes. So it's not like you have to worry about anything off the field. The question is it does maybe you try it because you're like, what do we have to lose? Both teams are losing when they feel like they should be winning. And if they switch it up, maybe they have something there that can help out. I'm not sure exactly what the plan is on the field for either team. Like, because I'm the Atlas and I have Miles coming in. Is that do we need a guy who can step down and kill it? Like, or is that going to be the plan? It's going to be very interesting.
And with that being said, why don't we jump right in? I know we're skipping a game. We're skipping the Friday night game or Saturday night game, excuse me. But let's go right into that Redwoods game. We talk about lacrosse as a game of runs. This was absolutely a game of runs. The Redwoods jump out 5-0 in the first quarter. Then Chaos bring it back to tie it at halftime. Or down by 1 at halftime, 6-5 Redwoods, and then Chaos just keep the train rolling and pull out to a 14-12 lead. Anything that stuck out to you this game? I know you said this was the second game of the weekend. That was a true face-off battle with Rowlett versus TD.
Yeah.
What else do you see?
Yeah, I mean, look, both face-off games, I guess we're calling them now. The face-off matchups were around 50%, and the games came down to the wire, and it was a pure game of runs. Dude, I got to be honest. There were times, especially in the middle part of this game, where I was like, yo, these teams are just flat out not playing defense. Like, guys were out of position. People were ball watching. I was surprised because I consider these two teams to be two of the best personnel-wise defensively.
Definitely.
And for some reason, they were just all over the place, and goals were just piling up. It was weird. But I thought it was just another classic PLL game where both these teams, it was physical, man. These guys were killing each other. So yeah, I mean, it was a typical Chaos versus Redwoods battle. But I was very surprised with the lack of defense, especially in the middle of this game.
Yeah, I think, for me, my opinion too, I think that the Redwoods are missing kind of a lockdown short stick D mid where some of these other teams have, like Danny Logan, the Cannons have Goodrich, someone like that. I think
That's a good point.
I think they have Isaiah Davis Allen. They were dressing Perkovic as a D mid. He was not really a D mid. He didn't dress this week.
More of a tranny, yeah.
They're dressing Tevlin as a short stick D mid, who's not a short stick D mid. He's a Swiss Army knife guy, two-way guys, but still he's not a true D midi. And then they have Chris Merle, who he's kind of been a journeyman. He's bounced around a few teams. Very athletic kid. I think he played football in college too. But they don't, like I said, they don't have someone who they trust to win their matchup. They're slide early to almost all their short stick D mids, I feel like.
You're right, man. You know, it's interesting. In this league, I feel like attackmen and short stick D guys are really linchpins for victories. You look at those Whip Snakes teams. They had Bernie. You look at the Archers right now. Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't really thought about it.
Archers have that guy, Latrell Harris, who's been awesome this year.
Yeah, Latrell Harris. Yeah, sorry, I mentioned the Archers, and then my mind immediately went to the trade, and I'm just thinking like if the Redwoods were to trade Miles for a short stick D guy, you know. But here's the thing: in this league, it's obvious that those are at such a premium that they probably would have had to throw a pick into, and I don't know if there's any stud shorties that would be okay with, that you would be okay getting losing right now. But yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we had on 2019 when I played with the Redwoods. I mean, we were loaded. We had Harvey, we had Brent Adams, we had Perkovic. All these guys were. You could make an offensive or defensive midline out of them and be completely happy with it.
Absolutely.
And that seems to be a thing that is missing right now. You're absolutely right.
And then back onto the Chaos side, they're sitting 4-3. They pull out a great win, comeback win. They seem to be clicking. They have some new pieces in there. It seems like Ty Kurtz played this weekend. I know he didn't play a little bit more in the beginning of the season. It seems like he's kind of finding his stride. I love that kid Minikus, who's playing behind.
Dude, Minikus is a stud.
He's awesome. And he's great for them too because he plays in their offense American style, which not the pairs, but it's a different change of pace. And he was always playing with his head up, and he's finding these guys that can finish in phone booths, and just putting it on their ears.
Yeah, and I think the misconception for people is that they feel like you have to play a Canadian style of lacrosse to fit in with the Chaos, and that's not the truth. I mean, it's just that those guys have such great chemistry because a lot of them play with each other on the Bandits or whatever. But yeah, I agree, dude. Minikus is all over the place. Like,
yeah, he had a little bit of a down
nightmare.
week. He had a little bit of a down week this week this past weekend in terms of filling up the stat sheet, but he's still getting a bunch of touches and getting the defense moving, and that's what's so important out there.
As you know, this is what happens in pro lacrosse: is somebody shows up that wasn't a Tewaaraton finalist and isn't a home name, and all of a sudden he's killing you. And 2 or 3 weeks go by, and this guy's crushing people. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, now he's going to get attention. Mm-hmm. And then he'll adjust his game a little bit. Other guys will get theirs because he's being covered a little bit more. But yeah, he's a stud. And his motor is phenomenal. I love watching him. His compete level is so high.
Yeah, definitely watch out for him. If you're a young lacrosse player, trying to be a great ex-attackman, he's definitely one that's up and coming. We always talk about Rob, Pinnell. We always talk about Ament, talk about Sowers. But, man, this guy Minikus is putting a stamp on the league for himself.
Yeah, he's legit.
Sure. Let's move over. We'll rewind back to the previous night. Whipsnakes 12, Chrome 5. You texted in our group, get Brendan O'Neill fitted for a Chrome jersey already. I mean, are the Chrome dead or what?
Dude, it doesn't look good, man. I mean... yeah, I mean the Atlas offense is awake, and that's without having Romar filling up the stat sheet. And they're going to win their face-offs. They're going to play the Chrome again.
Talk about next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm talking about. Look, I'm just talking about like Atlas versus Chrome right now at the bottom of the standings. Are the Chrome dead? The Atlas are going to play the Chrome again, and the Atlas are going to beat the Chrome again.
Yeah.
If the Chrome have to manufacture 2 wins somehow, right now, offensively, they look absolutely lost. They have almost half the amount of goals that the Cannons have.
Yeah.
They have 59 total goals. The Cannons they have 99. And defensively, they're not atrocious. In fact, they're actually like 3rd best in the league. But I think that is mostly because they have given up on dressing a face-off guy. They're scared to death.
Okay, so real quick on that. Don't you think, from your, I'd say, expert opinion, don't you think Connor Farrell would have got over 50% against Peter DeSala?
Yes, 100%.
So what the heck is going on there?
So here's the problem. It's not Connor Farrell. If you watch objectively on the
after
tape
he gets the ball.
Now against another face-off guy, I think you absolutely dress Connor Farrell. I think it's a crazy thing to not dress Connor Farrell against another faceoff guy because he has proven year in and year out since 2019 that he can go toe-to-toe and beat anybody in the league. Even Trevor, he's gone 50-50 with. Okay? So to not dress him when you know he can get the ball and pass it against a team that you know is going to dress. The Whipsnakes are not going to dress. They're going to dress Petey. They're not going to not dress a faceoff guy. The Archers, the Chaos, the Atlas, they're all dressing faceoff guys. He has to play in those games. If you sit there and play prevent against a good team that's also going to get the ball, they're going to score on those 32 seconds, and they're going to be more efficient. And, yeah, that's – now, when you go against a pole and they're playing prevent, I understand because Connor has turned the ball over a lot. That's something he knows he has to work on. But, yeah, so this week, I mean, they just got their teeth kicked in.
And they scored 5 goals. That's horrible. And a couple things. First off, while we're on the point of the faceoffs, I love what the Whipsnakes did on the faceoffs. They knew they were going to get the ball. They let Mike Earhart kind of hang out, play free safety a little bit, and if they caught the the Chrome in a sub change, he went down and scored.
Yep.
That's just great coaching. Great coaching.
Great coaching.
And back to the Chrome, they just waived a former Tewaaraton winner in Dylan Malloy. And I know whatever. What was it, 2016 he won the tournament? I don't care. The dude can still ball. You need goals. Why are you letting him walk? What is going on there?
Well, you know what? I always am hesitant to diss personnel decisions like that because you never know what's going on behind the curtain, right?
Okay.
A lot of people jumped all over Brian Holman earlier in the year, okay, because, of their decisions. And that seems to have worked out very well because some of these guys, Sudes is a chemistry guy. He's a locker room guy. So if there was something there, then he doesn't give a shit if you're not scoring as many goals. He's like, get the guys who want to be here in here. And I totally respect and understand if that was the case. I think that, this is not a Cannons last year situation where they were losing every game by 1 goal and they were just like, oh, we're so close. This team, this Chrome team is they're going to be underdogs by 2.5 goals this weekend. That doesn't happen very often in the PLL. So this is one of those things. You got seven games down, 3 left, one of which is going to be against the Atlas. If you can't motivate your team to say, look, we just have to win. We have to win 2 games. Can you dig deep and win 2 games?
I don't want to harp on it too much, and I don't know the logistics on where this player is in terms of on the Atlas's roster, but I don't think he's dressed 3 weeks in a row or has been in the reserve, is Steven Rapist. If you're the Chrome, just grab him if you can. I don't know. I'd have to check if he's been a reserve player or not, where that makes him ineligible to be grabbed. But, I mean, he was awesome for the Cannons. You talked about, Holman getting grief about some of the decisions. That I think that was one of them, having, Rapist not dressing for them. I think the Atlas picked him up. I don't know what his status is there, but I'm shocked that no one's utilizing him. It almost reminds me of when Jake Carraway was with the Atlas, and he kind of found himself out of the roster, and everyone knows he can ball, and now he's balling for the Water Dogs. I feel like it's a similar situation where Rapist fell through the cracks, right? He's not, maybe chemistry-wise with the Atlas, but, man, someone can use him. I can promise you that. He's too good of a player to not be playing.
He's a baller. And all a guy has to do is find the right spot. That goes back to that trade, right? We might scratch our heads with Miles for Romar, but who knows? Maybe it works, and both teams benefit from it. So, hey, look, the Redwoods had, Kavanaugh walked this year, went to the Cannons in that trade, and that worked out for everybody. So, yeah, who knows?
Yeah, good point. Let's go to our last game of the season, speaking of the Cannons. Cannons 12, Water Dogs 8. Cannons punched their ticket to the playoffs. From worst last year to punching their tickets. Hats off to Coach Holman and the guys on that squad. I know we talked to Hartzell before the season, and he, just after talking to him, I think we knew that we'd see a different Cannons team this year, and we absolutely have. I mean, they just took down the defending champs, 12-8. And
this team gives me emerging Ohio Machine vibes.
they have so many. I don't want to say like no names because no one in the league's a no name. I mean, to be in the league, you're a name. But they have emerging stars. I want to
Yes.
say.
They have
Just
emerging stars and everybody who's on board with being a piece of the machine. And if you're a cog in the machine and you're happy with that, Brian Holman will win games with you. And they obviously, look, everybody loves when they're winning. But even when they would lose games, that team would bounce right back. There's a lot of fight in this team. And I think Brian Holman seems very at home being a professional coach. They're making the right moves. I'm going to be interested to see if at some point when they run into when they play the Archers, say they play the Archers, what's going to be the deal with the face-off situation? Are they going to stick with the prevent? I think they're going to. I think they're going to win or lose with it.
Yeah,
because this past weekend, two teams, right? They played the Water Dogs. Both teams have been playing prevent, and they basically were playing a game of chicken. And the Cannons were like, no, you take the ball first. We're gonna make you. And then they won. And the Water Dogs were like, shit. So yeah, we'll see. But I love this team right now. I love it offensively, defensively. I mean, they have the highest scoring team. They have the best defense statistically. And they're doing it together. Everybody's happy with their spot.
And I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but I will a little bit. I think I think week one they lost, and I said, why not give Kirst in net a try? And he's talk about an emerging star. He's becoming one of the best goalies in the league this year, and so I'm going to pat myself on the back. I know
you should.
I know people listening know I'm biased to the Kirst family, but who isn't? Those guys are the best, and I love seeing him.
I made this comment a couple weeks ago that in a few years the All-Star format is going to be Team Kirst versus Team Kavanaugh. Like, those are the two royal families of lacrosse emerging right now.
That'd be awesome.
A Kirst or a Kavanaugh is a very safe bet. And I think
100%.
like they're winners. They're just winners, those guys. And yeah, I agree with you, and well done on that.
Well, let's. That brings us to our recap of last week's games down in Baltimore. Great to see those games in Baltimore. We barely touched on it, but Homewood just always a special place to go back, especially for those Hopkins guys that are playing in the PLL, and it's always a great turnout there, which leads us into next week, another historic stadium, Peter Barton out in Denver. Great atmosphere, another small stadium. They always pack it out. We have some great games coming up, and we're going to break them down piece by piece really quick. Before we have a guest on, we didn't even mention him at the top of the show, we have Stone Evans. We're excited to have him on, talk about his performance at the World Games, and just ask what it's like being a high schooler playing against some of the big dogs. But before we get into that, let's talk about these games. First game up in Denver, we have Chaos -1.5 versus the Whips. This is going to be a great game. I love the Whips +1.5 in this. I think the Whips are rolling. Brad Smith's back. These guys, they're going to go on a tear from here to the playoffs, and it started last week. It's going to keep going.
I got to tell you, if every week before I place my bet with the Whips, I have to see who's healthy. And if you got everybody from Earhart to Smith healthy, then I love +1.5 for this team. Absolutely love it. I'm going to have
maybe a little sprinkle on the money line, just a little sprinkle.
A little sprinkle. Well, that's the thing too. Is I think the Chaos it's weird right now betting with the Chaos because they have like 4 more wins than we're used to right now.
Yeah.
So, but I think this will be a traditional 1-goal game, and
wow.
I feel really good. I mean, these two teams, these are the 2 original champs of this league, and they have a phenomenal rivalry. So I'm going to definitely go with a 1-goal game on this, and I feel good about that.
How does Petey LaSalle match up against a guy like Rowlett?
Great. I think look, I mean, it's very easy to look on TV and see what the strategy is.
Yeah.
Guys are going down as slow as they can. They're pretending to look at their mom in the stands, checking their left shoelace, do whatever they got to do, and then on the whistle they just guess, and it ends up being a 50-50 matchup somehow. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be just fine. I think both guys are athletic. They're young. They're rookies. It'll be fun to watch.
Next game up on the docket is your favorite line of the weekend. We have Chrome versus Archers. Archers minus 2.5. Are we smashing the 2.5? Are we laying the points here? What are we doing?
There is no shot in hell I'm taking a -2.5 in this league.
Wow.
Absolutely not.
I feel like you got to do it for history. It's a historic bet, right? 2.5. Vegas
will
wants
take the
you
Archers.
to take.
I will bet 3 times as much money on the Archers money line.
All right. I feel like Vegas is teasing you with the 2.5. They want you to take plus the points, but they're going to backdoor you.
Dude, this
Archers.
league though, just when you think you got it figured out, you don't. Watch the Chrome win by 6.
What I think though too is important with a line like 2.5, which is different than 1.5. Goal differential matters in the PLL.
Yes, it does.
If the Archers have a chance to score an empty netter from 2-point range, they're going to do it.
That's a great point. You're absolutely right. You don't hold the ball with 6 seconds left for no reason. Yeah.
So Greg is on Archer's money line there. Are you going to take the plus 2.5 as well, or just try to split the uprights, or just ride out Archer's money line?
No way.
Yeah,
I'm not taking a +2.5. Absolutely not.
Our next game is Atlas versus Water Dogs. Water Dogs are minus 1.5. I love the way the Atlas have been playing. I'm interested to see if Miles Jones is inserted into the roster. Water Dogs coming off a loss against the Cannons. You know, it's hard to bet against Baptiste, and if I can get an Atlas team plus 1.5, I'm going to take that. I'd even sprinkle a little bit money line.
So you're going to take Water Dogs at 1.5?
No. Atlas plus 1.5 and Atlas money line. Take them both.
Yeah, the
double
money
down.
line is +110. I think it's, you know what's weird about the Water Dogs? It doesn't matter how many games they win or how well they play. They just never get respect.
I know.
It's crazy.
And I don't mean to diss them.
I think when people bet the Water Dogs, they bet the 2020 Water Dogs. And they forget this team freaking won the championship last year.
I know it.
But yeah, look, the more you see this prevent, the better guys are going to be against it. But I've been talking to Sisselberger and Trev about this. They hate it. Why? Yeah, they go 30 for 31, but these guys look like they've been through a meat grinder. Maddie's letting these guys take full baseball swings 800 times down the field. So at some point, things start to hurt. So you're going to wear a guy down. But yeah, I think, I'm looking more at the OU on this. And
Talk to me about it.
I feel good about going over on the 24.5.
Ooh.
I think both of these teams are going to put up goals.
That's a high.
Now,
That's a high over under.
It is. But I think Trevor is good at not turning the ball over. The Atlas are getting better at getting into their offense, and the Water Dogs are going to score in transition. Now, the caveat to that is you have Concannon playing awesome right now. And I don't care who plays in goal for the Water Dogs. They have 2 starting caliber guys, in my opinion. So that is the caveat, but I'm going to feel comfortable taking the over, and I'm going to take the Water Dogs money line.
All right. I like it. I'm going to ride Atlas money line and Atlas spread. We're head-to-head on that one, so we'll see who comes out on top. Last game of the weekend, we have Cannons minus 1.5 versus Redwoods. And this game reminds me, I think last year at Peter Barton in Denver, they wore those retro throwback mesh porthole jerseys, and I thought the Cannons and the Redwoods ones were the 2 best of them both. So it's nice that they're playing. It's Matt Kavanaugh revenge game. Redwoods, they're sliding a little bit. We talk about week after week how great of a season Ryder Garnsy's having. We had him on at the beginning of the year. He said his goal was to make the All-Star game. He's doing that and a hell of a lot more. But can he get the support around him? We talk about that midfield support. The attack for the Redwoods is lighting it up. Cannon's defense, man, they've been great. And we talked about Kirst in the cage. It's been a brick wall. He's saving it at like 60%, it seems like, even maybe more. This game's tricky for me. I think, it's one of those ones where you say it's going to be a 1-goal game and you take the plus 1.5. I don't know. I could see either team winning by 3. I could see the game going to overtime. I'm really not sure on this one.
Yeah, I think, the Redwoods are I'm interested to see what kind of Redwoods team we have here. Is this going to be like last week? Like, does that break your back as a team? Or do you come out fired up? Now, you also have an injection of somebody new in the locker room. That always creates some buzz. It's like the stock market goes up after every election.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And you talk about, last week kind of breaking your back, being a little bit of a demoralizing game. As a professional lacrosse team, how many or how much in-season adjustments are there? And to what extent, do they work out? It's tough to kind of change what you're doing, implement something new when you're really only practicing once a week with a walkthrough before the game. How can they turn this around?
I got to be honest with you. It completely depends on the people in the locker room. It's not an answer based on any history or statistics or anything. I've been on teams where you lose a game like this, and you look at the film and you're like, two guys just needed to get the ball out of their sticks quicker, and they're told that, and they instantly change it the next game, and you put up like 19 goals. And I've been on teams where you can't get a hold of those guys all week. One of them doesn't show up to practice maybe,
Misses
and then you
a
go on a
flight.
4-game losing streak. So we've been in those situations, you and I both. I think this Redwoods team will respond after this past week. I think this is going to be an awesome game. I think it will be a 1-goal game. Now, that being said, I think the Cannons are going to win. I'm going to take the Cannons money line in this game.
Cannons money line. All
Strictly,
right.
and I'm going to take the under of 24.5 because
You
I
heard
think
it
the
here
Cannons
first.
defense and the Redwoods defense, both the Redwoods know they need to be played better on D.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to eat. I think that's what's going to eat them the most. I think Glaze is going to chew a bunch of ears off this week, and I think they're going to come out better. So I'm going to definitely take the under in that game, regardless of how high-powered the Cannons' offense is. I think both defenses are going to get us under that 24.5.
Yeah, they played, I think, 2 weeks ago in Texas, and Cannons came out to a 16-10 win. So it's a lot of goals for the Redwoods to give up, and I'm sure they're going to be ready for them playing them so close back-to-back. But you have anything else for the preview of next week, or are we good to go?
No, man. I'm excited. We got some good matchups, and it's getting down to crunch time.
Absolutely. Be sure to tune in next week as we go back through our picks, see where we went right. If you're, on Twitter, tweet at us your picks. We'd love to hear, what you guys think of these games. If we missed something, be sure to let us know. And with that being said, we are super excited to turn it over to our interview and guest of this week, Stone Evans. Welcome back, everybody. We are super pumped to have Stone Evans on our show. If you've been following the sport of lacrosse and watching the World Games, you saw him tear it up out in San Diego. So we're glad to have you on, talk about your experience. Talk about, your experience in the world of lacrosse and how you got to where the point you are right now. So, Stone, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, first off, thank you guys for having me. Watched a few of the podcasts on my time in San Diego, so definitely excited to be here. But I'm Stone Evans from Hartford, Connecticut. I go to Cushing Academy in Mass. It's a boarding school in Massachusetts. Originally from Hartford, Connecticut. That's where I live right now. But I played in the World Games with Jamaica last year. I played in the U21 games in Ireland, so 2 great experiences there. So definitely excited to chat up today.
Stone, what club program you play with?
Prime time.
Nice. So tell us from a heritage standpoint, you played for Team Jamaica. Who in your family is from there?
Yeah, so my mom is from Jamaica. She migrated to America when she was 9 with my aunt and uncle. Her entire side of the family is from Jamaica. Cousins, nieces, all that stuff. So every Thanksgiving, food's always great, Christmas, everything like that. So that's my side of the family.
So cool, man.
So you talk about, you go to Cushing Academy. You're from Connecticut. How'd you land on Cushing? Because I'm from Massachusetts. I'm familiar with Cushing. I went to a school called Belmont Hill. We usually played Cushing in hockey, big hockey school. How'd you land on Cushing?
Yeah, so my plan growing up was, where I'm from in Hartford, lacrosse isn't necessarily the biggest sport. So every time I would play lacrosse was either me playing up with the high school guys in practice. It's not like New York where you can be in 8th grade or younger and play on the high school varsity team. So I didn't really have that option growing up. So everything that I played was, mostly out of state. Like I said, I played for prime time, so mostly playing growing up was there. But in terms of landing on Cushing, I always knew I wanted to go to prep school. I think boarding school would be the best option in terms of, getting ready for college and all that good stuff. So I visited a ton of schools. I did look at Governors. I did look at like schools like Belmont Hill, Dexter, Southfield, those schools in Mass. Even went out and visited IMG at one point, just so I was at a tournament there for NLF Futures event. So I had time to go see IMG. But in terms of Cushing, I've always been a fan of schools and what they're trying to build. One of the coach that was there at the time, the head coach Chris Kidger, who was now at Taft, and he's like one of my close friends, family friend. Played men's league with my brother, so it felt like family there definitely. In terms of like the school, definitely a great academic school, smaller school, over around 400 students. Campus is for the most part compacted. It's not necessarily a big town next to a city or anything like that, so you're always there. So you really get that boarding school feel, which I really liked. Lacrosse, obviously, you're building something, going from a 0-1 season my freshman year because of COVID, going 3-11 as a sophomore, and then make it to playoffs this year and losing in the semifinals to a 10-6 record, something building. And I'm really excited for what's happening senior year, so all that good stuff is what, brought me there.
Hell yeah.
That's great. What other sports do you play there?
So my freshman year, I played football. Unfortunately, they cut the program just because of money after COVID. Certain schools cut their programs, but I played football all growing up. Played basketball as well. Swam for a little bit. Did golf. Never played soccer. The Jamaican side of the family wasn't really the biggest fans on that because kind of everyone played. I'm actually the only lacrosse player in my family. On my mom's side, my family didn't even know what lacrosse was until me. It's kind of funny. So growing up, I kind of just did everything my brother did, my older brother, basketball, football, lacrosse. But like I said, unfortunately cut the program for football, but also played basketball there, ran cross country last year. So I definitely been around the sports industry.
No, that's like, for us, that's refreshing to hear, man. Especially in the world of lacrosse 24/7, year round. I feel like not only does it make you a more well-rounded athlete, it keeps your passion up for the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, lacrosse is such a blend of multiple sports. I think it's like so important, like especially at a younger age. Like playing like lacrosse is one thing, but like I played football. I originally played running back and linebacker, but I was always the smartest guy on the field for the most part. So I ended up playing quarterback. And my dad coached me in basketball growing up, and I was playing point guard. So now playing attack, I was playing X in the world games. Like it was second nature. Finding guys. Like I know how to lead guys because of football, playing quarterback and that good stuff. Like I can throw a bounce pass because of basketball or cross a guy up just because of basketball. So those different backgrounds and blends, it all comes in one lacrosse, which is nice.
That's such a great point. And what I'm curious is, at what point you said you're the first person in your family to play lacrosse. Your parents and relatives didn't really know what the sport was. At what point growing up did you kind of decide lacrosse is my sport? This is what I want to play in college. Because I remember being in the 9th grade, I was all hockey, and then something kind of clicked or flipped in my mind where I was like, you know what? If I want to play sports in college, lacrosse is going to be it. Did you have a similar experience?
I think for me, growing up, I try to do as much as possible in terms of football, basketball, and lacrosse. I think once I started getting to middle school, like I said, making those high school decisions, like boarding school and stuff like that, it was more like, okay, like what sport am I going to lean towards more? Definitely loved football and basketball growing up, but there was just something about lacrosse. And I think it was more because of the relationships I built, just because of all the teams I played for, I played on teams from Long Island, New York, Connecticut, even played on teams from Maryland. So, growing up, my dad surrounded me with a lot of different teams and a lot of different people. So I felt like with lacrosse, I could connect and relate to people a little bit easier than football and basketball. So I thought that's what, made my decision easier, leaning towards lacrosse down the long run.
Yeah, the game of lacrosse definitely feels more like a fraternity. Because, there's not nearly as many of us. Like, I'm Armenian, for instance, and my wife is Jewish, and we both have that like kinship with other people of our, likeness, just because there's not as many of us out there. I think the same thing with lacrosse. Like it's a fraternity, and I think that the game itself is so cool and unique. For instance, right, like how many sports right now do you just assume that at least a third of the kids that go to a pro game are going to be able to get an autograph after the game?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or if you're doing a clinic, there's a great chance a pro is going to just stop in and teach you some stuff. And it's cool because, like you said, the boarding school thing, and then also the club game provides opportunities for you guys to meet so many different people. And in that same vein, tell us what it was like going to the World Games, because I've been to it and it's like a festival. It's awesome. So tell us about your experience going over in California doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So playing in the Ireland games last year, U21, that was definitely an awesome experience. Absolutely enjoyed it, loved it. Had great coaching staff, like guys like Brian Silcott, Bodie Hangberg. You played with his younger brother Jules. Obviously been connected with that family for a really long time now, as they mentored me on my kind of come up, I guess you could say. But the experience in California definitely was eye-opening, and definitely was humbling and a grateful experience. Having the love from back home and support from my parents and my friends that are just watching on ESPN Plus for a little bit, and being able to be there. Like lacrosse is able to take me so many places, but being out in California for that period of time, the 2 weeks, and just being with your team, every day we're taking Ubers as a group to the beach, the museums, the different sites you can go see. I think at one time we went to like this big garden, which is really cool. Like this stuff you never see being from the East Coast. Like I'm from Connecticut, like I don't get to see the sun that much. Came back all dark and stuff. So it was such an awesome experience. And as I was playing, like I said, the support was amazing. I really didn't understand the impact that I brought to the island back home. I mean, the island, Jamaica, and then like my family back home, my friends and my coaches. And when I got home, actually it was after about a couple months after that, just because after I played in California, I went and played in Ontario for Six Nations Arrows in the Ontario League for box. So when I actually was able to be home, it was really like, wow, like I really did all this, It's kind of like a world tour, so it's definitely very humbling and definitely grateful for the opportunity.
Did you have like a aha, like holy shit moment when you kind of realized how well, first off, you guys did out there, but also just personally, going up against all these Division One professional players, and you're kind of just like, man, I'm not only am I hanging, but I'm absolutely making impact and helping Jamaica win these games. Like, was there ever a moment where you kind of had to check yourself almost?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was just talking to my dad about this the other day, and my offensive coach, Bodie, Jules' brother. So when I was playing there, to play in that, you have to have confidence, have to have some sort of swagger. Being my age at 17, going against grown men, pro players or former pro players, you got to have some sort of swagger and chip on your shoulder, like I can really do this. So like our first game against Germany, my attackman, our lefty attackman, Isaac, he was on the 2018. I think he was 18 or 19 at the time, so he's a younger guy. And him being a vet now really helped me. And one of my friends, Kari, who played on our attack line as well, he played me in Ireland last year. But having those two older guys and us being kind of the facilitators and main scorers for the team definitely helped me in terms of a confidence standpoint. I played up all my life. Fourth grade I was playing with sixth graders. That was the class of 2022. So I know guys who are in college right now playing. Obviously very close to them still. But in terms of like playing in there, like that oh shit moment type of thing, right? Like my first game, I didn't really do anything. I'm gonna be honest. I was kind of throwing the ball, had some jitters. That's gonna happen. Like that's a big step for me, and I had to take. Second game, I was kind of like, okay, like we're starting to get into this. We're winning, which is awesome as well. Third game, scored that first goal. After that first goal, it was like, all right, like put it past them. Like, all right, we can do this. And then the fourth game, I think I had a goal in the 4 assists or something like that, maybe. And I think I dropped like a bomb, and I if you saw the video, you can see me literally screaming of like straight pure energy.
I
And
know
the
exactly
energy
which play you're
was
talking
more,
about.
yeah. And it was against New Zealand, and the energy, like I just came back from getting absolutely clobbered, from turning the corner. I got clobbered, came back after 2 minutes, literally couldn't feel my chest for like a few minutes, which was kind of crazy. Came back, scored the goal. I had that moment, and it was more so, that moment was more so the people who said that like I wasn't good enough.
Just
And it was
relief.
more like, yeah, it was more like kind of F you, like I can do this, I'm here now. And it's more like, like I was thinking about all that, those emotions. And then after that game, I was like, you know what, we're gonna do this.
Dude, that's a beautiful thing of competing, is that you get to be raw emotion for a couple hours, and that'll be what I miss the most, is just being able to flip that switch, not care about another thing on earth that for that period of time, and then getting that, like you said, that first goal happens, and you come over to the sideline, you're like, I belong here, like, I it's not I hope I can hang on, I belong here, and then you take things over. And we were like looking at your highlights, man. You're running past PLL defenders. You're scoring on PLL goalies, and this is just something that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
How did you deal with getting that attention? Because it happens quick now, right? It's not like people watch it on TV and then all of a sudden you get like an extra letter. Like now you're all over TLN and you have people just hounding you about all kinds of stuff. What was it like?
Yeah, it was definitely humbling, of course, at first. I have a very soft upbringing, nothing special. Really kind of got it out the mud per se. Definitely, got it out there. But being there and, you said TLN and getting on the love and support, people texting me that haven't texted me in 4 years. So I was like, okay, like, had that chip on my shoulder, like, you're going to text me now just because I'm doing well. Like, thank you, I appreciate you. But in the back of my head, I'm like, I still got something to prove, right? Yeah. So, having all that love, I think actually, Bodie, Jules' brother, took my phone at one point because it was literally buzzing nonstop, and I kept checking it. And he was like, "Dude, just give me your phone." And I was like,
Yep.
"Okay." They didn't touch it for probably a day, unless I was, calling mom or dad. He'd give me that freedom. But in terms of dealing with, it wasn't necessarily pressure. It was more like that spotlight shining on you.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've always had this caliber play in me. Now it's just getting recognized. So once I got that first goal or that second goal, and the love from TLM started happening, text messages and stuff, I was like, okay, like how much more can I really do? And after that point, I started becoming more of a bigger threat. Started getting the better pull on teams like Italy. And funny enough that you guys talk about the PLL pros, like I didn't even know that Italy's goalie is a PLL pro. And to be honest, I didn't care. You're just another goalie. I'm going to score on you. We're going to win this game. And that was my mentality the entire time.
I love that.
Dude,
I love that.
I watched that whole Italy game because I had some buddies. Two of the guys on the attack line for Italy played at Villanova with me. So I watched that whole entire game. And, man, the way you guys played, it was a back-and-forth game, but you kind of kept Italy at arm's reach. They'd chip away, and you guys would have a great possession on offense and stick one and really just kill all their momentum. It was a great game to watch, and that's when I realized you guys are absolutely the real deal. If I didn't realize it before, then I was like, holy shit, like these guys can flat out ball. And you guys just played so well together as a team. It was a great game to watch. It's just as a fan of the sport, regardless of knowing anyone on either team, it's just a great overall game. And I love that you touch on that like feeling of relief, that first goal. You're gonna get that, and you talk about the spotlight on you. You're gonna get that, as you get to college. You just got to get that first one. All the pressure's off, and you'll feel it. And the fact that you have that feeling already before you got to college and at an early age, it's gonna prepare you so much more so than just playing all these other guys, just playing regular high school lacrosse or even like prep school lacrosse or whatever tournaments or club teams are playing for. You're already so much better prepared for having this experience. It's great to watch, man, and we're super excited to keep continuing following your career.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny you talk about how like my team, obviously I was getting a lot of love, but I literally couldn't do anything without my teammates. Like it's funny, Jamaica, like our lacrosse team, we didn't have that many resources going into this event. We didn't get a lot of fundraising. We kind of hit the 8 ball a little bit late, to be honest. We've had meetings about it with the team, with the coaches for the next 3 years. I think it will be just to have those resources and get actual sponsorships, because we don't want to worry about that stuff anymore. Like, obviously we made a lot of noise. I got a lot of noise as well, which I'm glad that noise went on towards more of my team, because those guys are what gave me the confidence. Being in the dorms with them, it's all like fun and games when they're like, oh, it's thrown again on TLN, but like I can't do that without Nate, our goalie, making a save. I can't do that without Kari getting a ground ball. I can't do that without Gore Murray on the other side of the field making a big stop. Like, they're just making my life so much easier, and I'm just able to shine it on that spotlight, like I said. So having those guys and being able for like my team, Jamaica, to have that and kind of shock the world. Like, okay, we beat Italy. They said it was an upset, but we knew we had that game from the beginning. And that's just our bulletproof mindset. Like, no one's going to be able to stop us. So what, we hit a hiccup with Canada, and then we lost in the last game to Israel. We still made it this far, right? Like, we still have more work to be done, which is nice. But in the grand scheme of things, like, we just shocked the world. Like, it's nice to look at and to be like, okay, like, what's next for us without having those resources?
Amen. Yeah, you're obviously going to get a lot more attention now, sponsorship-wise, for sure. You guys are here. And then you look at the trajectory. I mean, you're a relatively young team.
Yes.
So you're only going to get better, which is really awesome. Really
Absolutely.
awesome to see. Tell us about, real quick, because you went right from that and then you played indoor. How was that? I was playing for Six Nations.
Those guys, they're like the creators of the game. So I got a few different aspects of it. One from teaching standpoint, spiritual standpoint, and obviously the high level cross. So I got 3 core factors that are definitely going to affect my play from indoor to outdoor, which I think is great because as I've come up on the years, I've played both field and indoor cross. Don't ask me which one's my favorite because I love them both. I can't give you an answer. I'm just going to put that out there as everyone's question.
I'll never put you on that spot, don't you?
I'm like I don't know yet, But no, back to your question. It was definitely a very humbling and grateful experience. They saw me playing in the U18 games last year with Team USA. They came out to me and my father. They told us about them and what they're trying to do, and we definitely wanted to do that. But going there in Six Nations, I remember my flight got delayed 4 hours back to New Jersey, which where our training camp was. My parents picked me up and drove me straight to Canada. That night, I had a game at 8. The jitters were flowing. My dad had no clue how it was going to go. Stepped on the floor. I think I scored my first goal in the first few minutes. Like you guys said, that first goal or that first play definitely makes a spark. And from there, it was more so, how am I going to learn as much as I can from these guys? And I say this because, one, the coaches, they played for Six Nations eras. The alumni is great, right? They got guys like Cody Jamieson, Doka Nanakoke, right? Sid Smith, those big names. Those guys are there watching the games just because they love the sport that much. They could be somewhere else, training younger kids, getting paid to do it. Most of you guys are doing it for free just because they love the game. So, having to play this game for so long and the high level that I have, to continue to do this, you have to really love the sport, right? I mean, like, Greg, you played for so long, right? Like, you're the beast. Like, you got that name for a reason because you love the passion you played for the game. Like, guys like you, the way you play, right? You get that recognition because of the love for the game that you have. So, playing for those guys who love the sport, right, really, like, opened my eyes to, like, wow, like, this is really amazing.
No, man, you're right. I mean, that is one of the quintessential things about our sport still, is that nobody does it if they don't love it, even the pros, right? You make a couple grand as a pro. Like, Sibes will tell you, taking the train out to New York, practice, getting back on the LIR, you're seeing a whole bunch of high school kids that are getting on the way back into the city that are all partying that night, and you just got done practice, you got to go, like, you're going through that grind, and you're around people who really love it. And we actually made this point after the World Games about Canada versus USA, and it was just that there are more Americans playing Canadian-style box lacrosse than ever. And it's taking away some of that advantage that Canada had in the outdoor international game, where their two-man game and the style that they played was so weird for Americans to play against. Now you guys are seeing it growing up, and you're playing that game. You're playing both offensively and defensively. You're seeing it. So, I love the fact that you exploded onto the world stage. You had an incredible World Games, and then the first thing in your mind was, how can I go learn more to better myself as a player, but also because I just love this game, I want to keep playing it, and I want to play a harder version that's indoor that I'm not an expert at yet. Dude, that just speaks to how high your ceiling's going to be. People ask me all the time, like, what made Trevor Baptiste special? In a nutshell, Trevor goes and he's a first-team All-American as a freshman, wins a national championship. The first day back to New Jersey, he wanted to learn how to face off standing because he wanted to better his game. That's what makes guys like you special, is when you have incredible natural talent that is combined with a desire to reach your potential. And for you, man, sky's the limit, dude. I just love your mentality. I love the way you look at things, and I love your approach to our game, dude. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Sky is the limit for you, Stone, and your perspective on the game at such a young age is going to take you to so many great places. And to be where you are right now is super impressive. You're a super well-spoken kid, and I'm so excited to watch you continue to grow as a lacrosse player. So, man, it's been awesome meeting you here on the podcast. You're welcome back anytime you want, man. So good luck to you in the future, and this has been awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Good luck in fall ball. Are you playing indoor throughout the off season at all?
Yeah, I'll be playing USA again in the fall. I've won the silver medal for the past 2 years. My team was the first indoor team to beat Canada. So we're trying to build something special there. Haudenosaunee, like I said, their love for the game, it makes it effortless for them. Like, they wake up, they sleep, breathe, eat lacrosse. So not to say like American players will maybe get there, but like we kind of solidified that we have the outdoor game a little bit. Canada, they have that indoor game, especially when they get to college and they really start taking off. So I'll be playing box in the fall, playing fall ball at my school. Winter time, I'm gonna be in the gym, of course. Get my strength right, speed, agility, conditioning, all that good stuff.
Well, good luck, man. Stay healthy. Keep crushing it. Thanks a lot for coming on, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome back from that fantastic interview with Stone Evans. We're so excited to see where he goes in this sport. We talked about how impressive his, experience was at the World Games, and he's only going to get better. It's great having him on, and such a bright future for such a young kid. That was awesome.
Yeah, dude, it was just cool having, like, Stone had alluded to it. He used to come to all the Lizards games, and I have a photo of him after the game when he was like this big. And it just reminds you how tight this game is. And sometimes, like I've said it repeatedly the last couple of weeks, it's really dawned on me the difference between the game and the sport or business of lacrosse. The lax Twitter screaming about everything and everybody, trolling people and talking about drip or talking about, waving in somebody's face after you dodge them or getting in a fight. Like, that's the sport of lacrosse. I like the game of lacrosse where it brings people together. And having Stone here, you just see him, how much he's loving it. He's having a great time. And it's all like inside here. No one's forcing him to do any of this stuff. And hopefully, he has a humble, hardworking part of him, but he's got a killer inside there, man. And I'm going to tell you right now, when he plays in college, we're going to see him on the Final Four stage one day, and that killer's going to come out again, and it's going to be awesome to watch. And then a kid somewhere in those stands who watched Stone Evans be a killer on the field is going to go do the same thing because they got to see him. And that's what is so awesome about what we got going on right now.
You couldn't be more right. Absolutely. And that's what's special about lacrosse. And we both know that, and I hope, the listeners know that as well. And if you're a new listener to the podcast and you're a new follower of the sport, then you'll learn soon enough of how tight-knit this community is. And for us to be able to have a 17-year-old on and chop it up like we're best friends, that's what's really cool. We all have this one thing in common, and it's our love for the sport.
Yeah, amen. So we will go watch another epic weekend of PLL.
Correct.
And then after we get through this 8th week of the season, right? Is this week 8? Damn, it's week 8. You and I will come back here and we will talk about how much trouble or how they've turned around when it comes to the Chrome. And we will also be talking about whether or not the Archers got me my futures bet, which was preseason having OU of 6 wins.
It's a big week for that. Absolutely. That wraps up episode 39. We have a great week of lacrosse coming up at Peter Barton in Denver. And this season is getting to the nitty-gritty. We're super excited to see how this pans out. Be sure to tune in next week where you can hear us break down this coming up week's games and give out picks for the following week. Be sure to subscribe on Apple and Spotify to rise up the podcast. And if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to TorchPro's YouTube channel. And with that being said, we are out of here, and we will catch you next week.